Thanks, Councillor Corbett. Welcome and thank you for coming out tonight. The Mayor had to take your glasses off. I have to put mine on. So we heard that you wanted more information on the town's activities. Well, buckle up. I've never been so excited, and everybody else is so excited to learn about municipal activities. But we are excited to share what we've been working on. This is a progress report on where we are and where we are going with your help. Because there's a lot of information, and in the interest of time, we will be giving you high-level points. However, all of the information, as we've said, will be on the website. So let's start with the strategic plan. There are examples under each pillar that that Councillor Corbett just went through to provide guidance on what each category represents. Please share your feedback on how we can offer prudent government, be fiscally responsible, develop our community, and sustain the environment. You'll also note that as we go through the slides, we have the relevant pillar on each page. We won't have a chance to talk about all of the pillars tonight, but we are working on them. The mouse might be too far. So the strategic plan establishes a mission and vision statement. It highlights the intent of the community for the future of Bonfield. These statements will guide the actions and decisions we all need to make. Commonly heard words and phrases from a recent internal workshop are captured on this slide. Council and staff want a clean, inclusive, safe, family-friendly community moving forward to maximize opportunities for all. So what do we want the media to say about Bonfield in 50 years? We want them to say that Bonfield offers the best balance between quality of life, access to nature, investment opportunities, and affordability in Ontario. This is the 2021 Community Profile Vision Statement, which is still relevant today. But we also need the community to chime in. So this is the first community survey that we've done, which allows us to benchmark for future years. The plan is to do the survey at least once every council term, or a minimum of once every 5 years. The survey provides a snapshot on the pulse of the community, which is important in making sure council, staff, and the community align. So who answered our first questionnaire? So we had fairly even percentage of males and females, and even among those that live in the rural versus the hamlet areas. 91% of the 162 responses received were homeowners with 2 to 3 people per household. 30% are retired, which compares well with the 27% that were over the age of 65. The most common professions of the other respondents who were not retired are government, healthcare workers, teachers, and professionals in managerial roles. The diverse demographics of those who did answer ensure we can capture different perspectives. We asked certain questions in the survey to measure the satisfaction of the community with some municipal services. One constant request from the community is to have more communication, so we asked you how you'd like to receive it. The good news is that 43% like the newsletter, which we are revamping and sending out 5 issues a year. We also wondered what the strengths of the community were and why you chose to live in Bonfield. It's a compliment to you that 87% said that they would recommend living in Bonfield. We also want to know the top issues the community wants to work on through long-term and strategic plans. Some slides that are going to have a lot of information, like this one, so please remember the presentation will be available tomorrow. But the idea behind the slide is to show that we have taken answers by set demographics so we can consider different perspectives. For example, respondents who lived here for 20 plus years, their top focus is taxes, while those living here 10 plus years have infrastructure on the top of their priority. Likewise, when comparing what kind of community do you want Bonfield to be, brought a variety of answers because each demographic has a different experience. The residents 18 to 34 years old want family-oriented, while those 50 plus put affordable at the top of the list. The survey provides council and staff with a lot of information on what and how the community is thinking. It will be interesting to benchmark these on the next one in 5 years. So let's talk money. Taxes are based on assessment. The Municipal Property Assessment Corporation, or MPAC, values your property from historical building permits and property inspections. These assessments are done every 4 years, but because of COVID, the last one was 2016. We expected one in 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023. However, the province decided to review the taxation system as a whole, and it's been deferred once again. We often hear that Bonfield has the highest taxes in our area. The graph above shows the actual position of Bonfield relative to the main comparators such as assessment, households, and population. Using the latest numbers, you can see Bonfield does not have the highest taxes. People often compare us to East Ferris. So here's one way to look at it. You have two 12-inch pizzas that are exactly the same. They cost exactly the same, and everyone is getting the exact same amount of pizza. 8 people are buying the first pizza, 4 people are buying the second pizza. This means that the 4 people buying a pizza are paying more than the 8 people. Now let's talk about the toppings. Obviously it costs more if you want to add pepperoni, peppers, or onions, and so therefore the people who are paying less have extra money for more toppings. Now let's say the 8 people represents East Ferris and the 4 people represents Bonfield. And let's say the toppings are paving the roads, garbage pickup, and more recreation facilities. You can see that the 8 people have paid less for their pizza and they have more money to spend on the extra services. I hope that's easier to understand. So here's the 2023 pizza, also known as our operating budget. But let me break that chart down for you. Roads, landfill, cemetery, and parks make up the public works budget, which is the largest slice of the pie. We use historic information and evidence to base our decisions on. A good example is the Winter Wednesday night landfill site pilot project. Policing is the next highest slice, but it's actually a levy, and we're working on moving it to a different category. Fire includes building operations, volunteers, equipment, and vehicles. General government includes council and administration expenses, such as insurance, IT, and town facilities. Contracted services were 33% of the operating cost, materials were 36%, and salaries in 2022 were 31% of overall expenses, but we were short-staffed. In the industry, the standard for salaries is around 40% of operating costs. Other costs, as we mentioned with the policing, are levied. The other provincial or regional boards and agencies that we must pay include MPAC, Conservation Authority, and the District of Nipissing Social Services Board, to name a few. The total levies are approximately $1.2 million, which includes our contributions to Castle Home. The new seniors living building at Castle Home will be completed in 2027. Our share of that project will result in a loan with annual payments of approximately $130,000, and that will increase over 40 years. Council has committed to increasing the budget by 1%, or $31,000, until 2027, so we can offset this large expense, because we don't start paying the loan until 2027. Let's talk about the capital budget now. This is the third component of our budget process, and it's often the most fluid section. As mentioned, we use evidence-based decision-making, such as roads need studies and the bridge study to determine the priority for the year. We're building the asset management plan that will set priorities over the long term, and we're establishing various programs to aid in determining capital projects, such as a gravel program and key performance indicators. In 2023, the township spent approximately $1.6 million in capital projects. As Councillor Corbett mentioned, there was $807,000 was spent on improving the roads, $605,000 was used to purchase new road equipment, and it cost nearly $200,000 to purchase new taxation software as our current system is being discontinued. Of the capital budget, only $130,000 was included in the 2023 capital levy. So to summarize the budget and tax levy process, it is clear the township is well managed considering the small amount, which you can see from the slide, is about 16 cents per dollar that we have in discretionary spending from just the operating budget. Now we're going to go through a financial update. No. So let's talk about reserves. Okay, so we have 10 reserves, of which 3 are mandatory. There's the landfill closure cost, where the goal is to have enough money to replace the landfill site when needed. The second is the 5% in lieu of parkland, and we are required to have a reserve for any capital that was funded through a Trillium grant, such as the skateboard park. So the remaining 7 are outlined in the township's reserve policy that was adopted in 2020. As the policy states, each reserve has a set funding goal to ensure this township is sustainable. As you can see, those reserves are not yet funded. When you go and look at this tomorrow, you can see that right here. Here's what the goal is, and here's what we have. So you can see that we need to be putting more back into our reserves. For several years, $75,000 was unsustainably and automatically used from the Tax Rate Stabilization Reserve Fund to keep the tax levy 2% lower. However, this depleted the fund, which is meant as a contingency, and we are working on discontinuing that practice. So let's talk about the good news. While reserves are not yet where we want them, the funds have been invested and they're working hard for us. We are working on a plan to ensure that we are capitalizing on every opportunity. About deferred revenue. Annually, the township expects to receive funding from the senior levels of government. The funding is generally $322,498 and is mandated for capital purchases. The township is allowed to save up money for one large project, but it must be used within 5 years. As an example, this is what we used on Development Road in 2023. So now let's talk about debt. Currently, the municipal's annual debt servicing payments equal $209,000 a year. When it comes to debt, the province provides each municipality with a debt ceiling known as the annual repayment limit. Currently, Bonfield is at 33% of the level, and the industry standard is typically around 40%. Annually, the province compares all municipalities' financial standings and assigns risk levels. They use the financial information return, which we compile when completing the audit. For 2022, which is the last audited financial statements, the township had a good rating with only one moderate risk category. That was the asset consumption ratio. The ratio indicates that Bonfield is not adequately planning for long-term assets. It didn't click when it was supposed to. So now let's talk about asset management.